how important is activation actually?
How can we evaluate research and understand whether it's credible or not?
So the evidence has changed a lot on ICE.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and squirrels, welcome to the show. I've got two amazing co-hosts here. Dr. Sean Safar,
Thank you for having
welcome.
me.
Daniel, the swole, Luivano.
How are you?
I'm doing well. And yours truly, Cameron Harn. I want to bring all of us together today. I value your expert opinions in the world of fitness and all things health. And I think we're going to have some good discussions today, right? We're going to dive into some topics relating to recovery and all sorts of things pertaining to the fitness industry. So let's just go ahead and have our normal conversation like we would when we're getting treatment, working out, or doing whatever. It's kind of the crux of the show.
Let's do it.
I think one of the things that we had kind of brought up in conversation was a podcast, the Modern Wisdom podcast. They had Sean Stevenson on. And one of the things that was really interesting about that podcast was the references to studies, things related to genes. Sean Stevenson did say that certain things are embedded in our genes, and there is research that can show that. I kind of want to start off with you, Sean, and go into how can we evaluate research and understand whether it's credible or not?
Yeah, so from the physical therapy lens, we call it levels of evidence. There's 5 levels. Level 1 being the highest, level 5 being the poorest, right? Level 5 is sort of expert opinion, meaning there's no study, there's no experiment done. It's just me saying, hey, I think this is good. Level 1 would be a high-quality systematic review or meta-analysis. Systematic review and meta-analyses are basically where they look at multiple studies and combine them, right? Because the whole idea is studies are supposed to be critiqued to a high level, but certain things can't always be controlled based on just how the study's executed. So if we can reproduce it a bunch of times, then we can kind of look at that data and see. The issue is not all studies are done with the same credibility, right? So for randomized control trials, which is sort of like the gold standard of a study, right, where you randomly assign people to groups, and then one group gets the treatment, one group gets a placebo, there is something called the Pedro scale, which is a way that you can basically rate the quality of that randomized control trial, right? So anyway, all this to say is I think the best way is you start with, hey, is this a randomized control trial? Is this a meta-analysis? What kind of study is this? Or is this just a case study? The more people there are in the study or the more studies there are, usually that's a sign that it's higher quality, right? There's something called the law of large numbers in statistics. Basically means the more numbers you get, the more likely it is going to be the truth, right? Then you have to then go in there and say, are these studies accurate and valid? So it takes a lot of work to dive in and look, okay, is this a meta-analysis? Is it a randomized control trial? Is that a high-quality meta-analysis and randomized control trial? But you can do that. You have to sit there and really read it.
Got it. It just seems difficult for the layperson to really understand how you evaluate a high-quality study when either they didn't go through medical school or they didn't go through the PhD program, because I guess one of the problems that I have with the fitness industry is just that people will make these claims and they'll use scientific jargon, and to somebody who isn't accustomed to something like that or hasn't gone through the rigorous process to become a doctor or whatever it is, they don't know how to evaluate. So you kind of just take what they're saying for their word, and to me it just seems it's not an appropriate way to convey information to people.
A little disingenuous, would you say?
Yeah, disingenuous. Exactly. Thank you.
Word, yeah.
I think one thing I've come across is that if you look at what people are saying on social media, and then you actually just go to the study and you get the abstract. Abstract is like the summary of the study, right?
Yeah.
It says, what was the question? How did we do it? And what did we find? In the abstract, you can often see that the results they made were very specific. We found that this works for this people during this time. But then on social media, it'll just say, this thing's amazing all the time.
Yeah.
And then that's sometimes where I see there's some disingenuity. So I think one really simple thing is if you can find the study, just go look at the abstract and see where the author's actually claiming, because they're very specific. They're going to say that, hey, we found that, for example, strength training worked really well 2 times a week in the group 65 years and older who had this condition.
Yeah.
But then some people will say strength training 2 times a week is all you need. It's like, that wasn't what the study said.
Yeah.
Right. So if you go on PubMed and you just look for the study, you can find the abstract. Honestly, just look at the last sentence of the abstract. That's usually the results and what the authors claim.
Gotcha. That was actually one thing that I was excited to talk to you about, Sean, specifically, was about how the layperson, like we described earlier, could go about finding that information. Is there any governing bodies you'd recommend, any websites, anything like that? Because a lot of people, like you're saying on social media, guys will say, there's a new thing out right now, actually, funny enough, that was going over protein intake, for example. How much protein do you need to take throughout the day? How regular does it need to be for muscle hypertrophy? And this new study just came out. It's a singular study, mind you, not a meta-analysis like you're talking about. But this study just came out saying that all that really matters is overall protein intake. But that's just one study. Do we take that with a grain of salt? Is there somewhere else we can go and look and find a better meta-analysis? And, like, are we expecting the layperson to go do this on their own and take everything they hear from anybody with a grain of salt? Is that what we're really expecting?
Yeah, so like what I would do, for instance, is the best way is I go on PubMed. PubMed is basically, this publication source for all the medical journals and stuff like that. And you can type in protein intake and whatever the correlation or they're trying to make the assumption is, like protein intake and longevity, protein intake and strength. And then it'll load all the articles that are looking at all those too. And then you can see, hey, are there articles? When did this come out? A lot of times people are quoting articles from 1965, and you're like, a lot has changed in 60 years. So usually I start with PubMed as a really good searching point, like launching point to see what's going on. So is it a single study? Are there other studies? Is there a meta-analysis on the same topic? But if you type, X and Y on PubMed, usually that's a really good place to go and see where things are.
So what would you say is a good qualifier to determine whether or not a study is a good study? We did say that having a large study group is helpful, but what are some other things that would help give credence to a high quality study? Yeah,
so always when we're trying to be critical of a study, we're trying to address bias, right? Was the author biased in trying to influence the study? Were the subjects biased? Do they know they're being studied, and because they were being studied, they behave differently? Did the people collecting the data, were they biased? So it's kind of one of those things that you have to read the methods on how they actually did the study, and you critique it yourself and go like, hey, like that seems like the way they were collecting that evidence, the author or the researchers could have easily influenced the outcomes, right? So we're always looking for bias. With a randomized control trial, the whole idea is that the people collecting the evidence don't know who's getting what group, right? So a very simple one is, we're giving medicine to people. There's the placebo, the sugar pill, and then there's the real one. And the people who are collecting the evidence or the people administering it don't know which one's getting what, and neither do the subject participants. So when we get that, that's usually a really good study where we know, hey, the risk of bias in this is really low. Unfortunately, with things like strength training, it's hard to make a placebo group for that, right? So sometimes you have to look at the study. You can't say, oh, they didn't have a randomized control trial, because it's like you can't necessarily do a randomized control trial for that kind of study. You know what I mean? That's where reading the methods and having your own critical appraisal is really important. Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay.
Unfortunately, it takes work. There's no real clean answer for how to do it.
It's almost I feel like to a certain level impossible for a layperson to actually be able to trust anyone they see on social media to a certain extent. I personally always come at it with a sense of what's the word I'm looking for? I don't trust somebody. 9 times out of 10 I go, interesting. Maybe I'll throw it on the docket as something to look at later into myself, Like I won't ever actually just see a video then automatically implement that into my training style or like meal plan. And I feel like for the general person, that's probably a healthier way to look at it. Wouldn't you say? Like, take it with a grain of salt, maybe look into it on your own time, or until it becomes maybe more well documented and more universally agreed upon by the medical community. or even the strength fitness community at large. I think that's probably when I would start to acknowledge it in that sense.
Yeah, I think you should be skeptical also when people use scare tactics to promote their claims, because you see that all the time, and people are constantly putting out this fear porn and trying to scare people into going onto their website and checking out what they're talking about and stuff. And
Are we referring to the obesogens?
I'm gonna go to obesogens in a minute, but that's one of the big problems, right? It's like people are like nanoplastics are going to kill you, and it's like we don't have any definitive data to show that it is going to kill you, it is causing cancer or all these other illnesses and stuff. And it's like, okay, hold on a second, there might be some credibility to that claim, but the research cannot prove it definitively yet. Like in that episode also, they were talking about microplastics, nanoplastics, and how these things are causing these types of issues and stuff. And on our text message thread, you're like, dude, I'm throwing out all my kitchenware right now. And I'm like, that's just,
I already did.
Yeah, I know.
It's already gone.
It's all gone. Okay,
it's all been
I have
now.
all glass, all, what is it called? Ceramic, and there's no
ceramic.
plastics at all.
Bamboo cutting boards.
But it's like, who's going to do that? It just seems completely unreasonable to tell people you should just throw out all your plastics and we should do this and do that. I'm like, dude, come on. That is just absolutely ridiculous that we're going to lead with these types of claims and tell people. And it's just, come over here and buy my book and I'll tell you all the secrets and stuff and what you need to do to live a healthier life.
So I'll say this. I feel like in true science, nothing is actually considered 100% definitive, right? So like the whole idea is when you do statistics, you never say we have proven this hypothesis. You always say we rejected it or we failed to reject it, meaning we couldn't prove it wrong. Mm-hmm. You never say we prove it right. So nothing in life is 100% definitive, right? Everything is saying, hey, we haven't proved it wrong yet. Right? Like you could take it to the extreme as saying the sun will always rise. And it says, no, it's just so far it's always rise, but I can't guarantee you tomorrow it will. Right? Like that's
true.
a one extreme.
Yeah.
Right? Now, for best practice, we say there's three things. There's research, there's expert opinion, and then there's the person's own belief. When we synthesize the three of those together, that's usually where we find the sweet spot. Because research is amazing and it's a really good launching platform, but research also changes, right? For instance, in 2012, the American Physical Therapy Association gave icing people with ankle sprains an A-level recommendation, meaning like, hey man, we're really confident this is good, but by 2021, it got a C, right? So very simple research changes, right? So we can't hold it as dogma. Mm-hmm. But it's a good thing because it's saying, hey, with probability and stuff, we can say that yay or nay or we don't have inconclusive evidence. But then the person's own beliefs and the expert's opinion, I think, are where you kind of can fill in the gaps for now. Because, for instance, you might say, like, listen, plastics are bad, but for my current lifestyle and the way I see it, like, I don't know if I'm ready to throw it away, right? But he might say, like, no, you know what? It's actually not that big a deal for me. I'm going to throw it away because right now the probability says, it's not so good, and so does this expert. So, yeah, I guess what I'm saying is we shouldn't hold research to the highest. Or no, we shouldn't hold research as an absolute, right?
Okay.
But we should also listen to it because it is statistics and kind of showing us when we zoom out that it is going some way.
And that is how I like to look at it. I love to look at it, as like I said earlier, with the grain of salt. Like Cam was saying, is having some microplastic in my microwavable rice going to kill me in the next couple of years? Definitely not. But at the same time, do you think it's good to have microplastics in your body? Do you think that sounds like something that could be good to you? I feel like we would all agree that not having microplastics in our body would probably be better. Whether it affects us, yes or no, is up in the air still. Like we were saying, we don't know. But maybe if you have the time, the money, the dedication, and you just want to be sure, there's no harm in swapping everything out for glass or ceramic or whatever. But I would actually like to go on a tangent if we're okay with it, because you brought it up, the ICE study. I'm so passionate about the ICE study because so many people go, I'm feeling a little sore. They go, throw some ice on it, rest, ice, what's C again?
Circulation.
No,
No.
Oh, it's
compression and elevation. I always hear one of those things when I say I'm sore. Oh, I janked my ankle at doing running or whatever. I always get one of those responses from either a lay person or even still yet physical therapist and my doctor, like my actual doctor, which I just can't fucking believe, and it blows my goddamn mind. So I'm so passionate about it, and I roll my eyes every time I hear it, and it grinds my gears. More so because I just know how much harm it's causing compared to how much it's helping people. Because so many people will take that and be like, "Oh, I need to take 2 weeks off from the gym because my hammy's sore. I think I might have tweaked it." When in reality, there's definitely, I'm sure you would agree, stuff you could actively be doing to improve not only your health, but that specific tweaked muscle as well. And it grinds my gears. So I would love to hear your take on that and what you think we should actually be doing.
So just to be clear, you don't like ice.
I hate it with a burning passion. The only place I like ice is in my fucking coffee, dude. That's the only place I have,
Whoa,
I have
whoa,
ice.
hold on a second there. Now you've taken it too far. Now I have a personal issue.
No.
So, so the evidence has changed a lot on ice, and obviously, I think it's all over social media right now. The person who made ice famous is Dr. Gabe Merkin, and it was a '70s book on sports medicine. And the reason is, I think back then we looked at inflammation as this sort of like evil demon, right? We were like, oh, inflammation is a thing that's in your muscles and joints causing you pain. If we get that out of there, you'll feel less pain and you're good. And I think now we're realizing that acute inflammation isn't necessarily bad. Chronic inflammation from poor lifestyle is a different issue, right? That's not good. But acute inflammation because you were playing soccer, you rolled your ankle, is sort of your body's way of healing the rolled ankle, right? It does a few things. One, the swelling actually provides a little splint to make your ankle stiff, right? Because when you rolled your ankle, you stretched it too much. So your body's saying, hey, we need to stiffen this up. So it swells it up. The other thing is that inflammatory cascade has signals to say, hey, you did something here. Let's fix it. So I told Cam one time, the analogy I like is, let's say there's a pothole in the road, right? It's very inconvenient. It's going to cause cars to probably ruin their tires and may cause some more issues, right? Inflammation is like the city coming and putting cones and a big orange sign that says, watch out, pothole, right? The problem is it's now blocking more traffic. It looks really ugly, and it's actually making things harder because now that pothole, instead of being, let's say, a foot by a foot, we have cones around it, and it's extended its inconvenience. However, if somebody came and kicked the cone away, so the pothole is just as is, people are going to drive over it, and it's going to cause more problems. So ice is sort of like someone putting the cones away and saying, no, let's just ignore it. Just ignore it. Instead, we should be saying, hey, no, there's a problem. Let's let it do its process, right? Let's let it heal itself. However, I don't want to totally throw ice away, and here's why. I do believe our body has the ability to heal itself, and we should let it heal itself. But let's say you're a professional athlete, and you tweaked your ankle, and you have to play a game tomorrow, right? The question is this: what's more important, your performance tomorrow or the long-term recovery of this ankle? And it's not always black and white, right? You could always say, oh, it's the long term. But what if this game tomorrow is going to be the defining moment between your next contract, which could be $5 million, right? Or what if it's some project that you've been working on for 20 years? Like you're ready to run an Ironman, and it's been something you've been working on for 2 years, and you rolled your ankle, and in my mind, you might want to ice it just so you can get through that race tomorrow. Because, again, I don't think icing it's going to necessarily, like, ruin it. But on the flip side, I think we should let your body heal itself. So I say this to say is it's changed, and I agree. If you don't have anything super dire and important coming up, I say let your body do itself. There's other things you can do to heal it. But also, I don't want to quickly say, like, hey, never ice, it's bad for you. Because sometimes it might be appropriate for you to just get that inflammation down so you can continue with your life.
Yeah. Do you feel better about?
And let me clarify as well. That was beautifully summarized, and everything you just said is wholeheartedly how I actually feel about ice. I just like to be exaggerate and make a little spectacle out of it because of how stupid I think it is for the layman personally. Athletes is a great example. You're 100% correct when you have like a situation where I got a big game tomorrow, I got Game 7, whatever it might be, Super Bowl, whatever, you know.
They only play one game in the Super Bowl.
No, I meant Game 7 World Series. I was talking about two different examples.
Okay.
Game 7 World Series, Super Bowl, NBA finals, whatever you want to call it, UFC fight, I don't know, whatever you want to call it. I do see the importance in its application in those specific circumstances, but my passion more so comes from for the normie,
of
for the
course.
normal person. But then even amongst the normal person, I always tell people, because a lot of my friends like to ask me, like, how do you actually feel about ice? I get asked that all the time. And I say, if you can stand the pain, let it do its thing, maybe heat it. If you can't and it hurts that bad and you need a little bit of numbing, I often like just ice it. It's not gonna. I guess it's not gonna hurt anybody really. It just might prolong your process a little bit.
Yeah, it might prolong your process. I think also, like, I always say, if you can't sleep or you can't do any exercises to help the problem, then maybe you do need a little bit of ice just to help get yourself to that point, right? Because we heal in our sleep, we heal when we exercise. But if you're so beat up that you can't do those two things, and like I think that's an appropriate time for doing something like ice or even like electrical stim or other things to help just bring down the pain enough so that you can sleep, you can exercise.
100%, exactly. That's perfect. It's beautifully put. You're much
Thank
more
you.
articulate than I am. I'm very brash.
I wouldn't, no, I tend to ramble, to be honest.
It's good though. It's good.
Yeah.
But
Just talking about
so
ice.
it's the same principle, I think, with a lot of things, even like with electrical stim, ice, or even anti-inflammatories. Now, I won't tell anyone to take certain medications. It's not part of my license and stuff like that. I guess what I'm saying is everything has context to it, right? And obviously, we're going to take research, and research is very isolatory, right? Because they're trying to examine variables. So research won't look at context as much. But your context matters into whether you're going to use ice, whether you're going to use electrical stim, whether you're going to exercise, what exercise you do. So you always have to factor those things in. And I think one of the problems is in social media, it's really easy for us to say an absolute thing because you can't have context and explain context in a 1-minute video.
Yeah,
right?
because nuance isn't sexy.
Nuance isn't sexy.
It isn't.
Right? But that's what makes the difference, right? Because, for instance, Cam might have the perfect exercise for me. Right? Or Cam might have the perfect exercise, but I might not be ready for it, right? Because I don't have the context to surround it. It might also not fit in line with my goals, but that's not how social media works, right? Social media says, this is the shit.
Yeah.
Do
this
it.
is it.
You know
Do
what I
it.
mean? Because it gets attention.
Yeah, that's both the upside and downside of social media is that there's a lot to talk about. There's a lot of open discussions, a lot that people are able to learn, but there's also obviously a lot that negatives that can come from it as well. And I do think nuance is definitely one of those things. It's like Cam said, it's not sexy.
Yeah.
People love to give you an absolute, and not only that, but like you said, like what sells? What's going to sell to people? People want to hear that there's this one thing you can do to change your life around and make all your wildest dreams come true in terms of fitness or even beyond that, like in terms of maybe like lifestyle or finances. People want to hear that one thing.
Totally.
And it's the nature of human beings at this point, unfortunately, on social media.
Well, I think this transitions really well into the fact that there are very few principles and a lot of different methods, right? The nuances aren't sexy. The principles also are not sexy, but the minutia is sexy. Getting lost in all the different recovery modalities that you could do or all the different ways that you could hack this or be this type, this type of training method or that type of training method and stuff. And for the vast majority of people who are looking for some sort of solution, they kind of get lost in all the different methods out there. The key thing is if you're looking to sleep, if you're looking to build muscle or whatever, if you're or sleep better, build muscle, or lose body fat, whatever it is, you got to sleep well. You got to get your nutrition dialed in, and you have to train, and you have to train hard. There's just no exception. There's no short, cut around that. It has to be those three things. Focus on those. Make those as good as possible for your lifestyle. And then if you're still finding that you're having a difficult time mastering those things, then maybe you need to jump into some of the other different methods and stuff that could facilitate better sleep, an easier way for you to eat, and then a training style that fits your lifestyle just a little bit better.
Yeah.
But taking Ozempic would be so much simpler.
It would be, and this is just the unfortunate thing that we've seen progress over the short lifespan in the fitness industry is before we knew that people needed to train hard and they were totally okay with it. And then like anything, just like you want to make things easier, you want to make things more accessible or just achieve your goals faster. And now we've kind of lost sight of how great the process is and the benefits that come with that.
Yeah.
And it's just kind of a consequence of the modern age that we live in, where, you know, you can push a button and get something delivered to your house that day or whatever. We're not willing to wait, but there's beauty in being patient and enjoying the journey. And that is really where you're going to find the most fulfillment and enjoyment, is in that journey, in that process. And that also reflects on the type of person that you are. You are the type of person that trains X amount of days a week, that sleeps well, that prioritizes these things. Do you really want to trade that for a shortcut that is not a part of who you are? That shortcut is not a part of your identity, and it's not going to stick.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I think I remember when I was in college, I was listening to the audiobook of the Bushido Code, which is like the code for samurais, right? I love martial arts, so like big martial art nerd, book on samurais, I'm in. And I remember they said something that I was just like, I had to just like pull over. And the whole thing was that according to this book, the samurai's philosophy for becoming successful was through virtue. Because the idea is, if you're a virtuous person, you're compassionate, you have assertiveness, determination, perseverance, loyalty, honesty, there will be people in your life that trust you, you can work with, and with those people come resources, and with those resources you eventually kind of sort of grow and move up the successful ladder. And to me, it was such a powerful thing, because I think oftentimes we're always looking for this shortcut, and then we realize we don't have a system in place to back us. But when you have virtue, which you get through strength training, which you get through the hard work of doing, 5 days a week, 7 days a week in the gym, sleeping right, eating right, not only do you get the results, but you have the system to back it. It's kind of like what James Clear talks about Atomic Habits, right? If you're just goal focused, you might get there, but as soon as it's done, if you don't have the system to back it up, you're going to lose it faster than you got it, right? But if you develop virtue, if you work on the skills to be a person that can do that thing, then not only will you reach there, but you'll be able to maintain it. And I think that's the thing. I mean, everyone says, my goal is to lose 10 pounds. But no, your goal is to be somebody that is fit. And in that fit person, they might weigh a little less than you currently do, right? So it's like, okay, what does a fit person do? And you have to think about not just what it takes, but the virtue that it takes to get there, right? Because it's like, okay, I have to work out hard. But what does that mean? That means perseverance. That means even when I don't feel like it, I'm going to show up. Or integrity, because I made this promise, I'm going to follow through with it. And I think oftentimes we get so lost in the minutia of like, okay, I need to hit the low-level laser therapy before I do this. And it's like, dude, just show up. Like if you can show up and just honor your commitment, you'll get there. You don't have to necessarily turn it into rocket science.
Yeah.
Well, that's why I appreciate Atomic Habits so much. It's because it focuses more on incremental change, and people can look at Atomic Habits in a couple of different ways. You can look at it as being big change, which I think would happen over the long term, or small, like an atom, right? And it's the incremental changes that you are placing day to day that validate that you are the type of person that does those things. And as you start to master the art of showing up, then you go into more complexity, and then it transforms into the greater version of yourself that you wish to become. And all that is a process. And we lose out on that when we try to hijack the problem and just find an instantaneous solution. And if there was one thing that I would encourage for everybody, it's just to find that thing that they think they can put into their lives that they're going to be able to do for the long term, and make those slight adjustments and continue to add layers of complexity until they get into that state. I mean, that's what you got to do. And that could be martial arts, it could be spin, it could be anything at all. And it doesn't matter. There's no one form of exercise that is better than another. It's just the one that you can adhere to the best that is going to be the best.
Yeah. Something that you said that I want to piggyback on is, you said like decide what it is that you want to do and stuff like that. And I remember one thing that moved me about the book Atomic Habits is he basically says, decide who you're going to be and then prove it to yourself with small wins. And like that was the whole thing. I think that's really important too, because I think what we're now seeing in the research too is your belief about what you're doing and about who you are matters.
Absolutely.
So I think that's part of the reason that the process and taking the hard road it matters is because if you take the shortcut wholeheartedly, you don't necessarily believe that you are that person. But when you do the work daily, 5 days a week, whatever it is, you know to your bones that you're a fit person, you're a strong person, you're a capable person. And I think people underestimate that. They just look at the result, not necessarily what that result means to them, and do they really believe they are that person.
Yeah.
Yeah. Adversity is underlooked, in my opinion. People like to take the shortcut. What's that saying that summarizes it very well? The person who enjoys walking will walk further than the person who enjoys the destination. I hate that cliches have gotten stigmatized in today's society and world, not only on social media, but even like amongst peers. You go anywhere, like in certain, for example, I train jiu-jitsu. I go to jiu-jitsu gym sometimes when I'm training. I'll tell people, yeah, I went to the gym before this. And they're like, dude, you're doing 2 workouts? Like, I was doing too much. I'm like, why is like doing what I want to do, accomplishing my goals, doing too much? You know? So like working hard and trying to chase your goals and your dreams has become like, why are you doing so much? And I'm like, why not? It's just, you kind of have to be the person that you want to be and kind of fake it till you make it, until you prove, like you're saying, prove to yourself that you are that person. So you know for a fact. And a lot of people, like when I take on new clients, I literally had a meeting with a potential client 2 weeks ago where she asked me, she said, I have a wedding coming up in about 3 months. I need to lose 15 pounds and I don't want to do anything about it. And she came to me and this was her, she said, what can we do that's least invasive? Like that I don't have to, she's so, and long story short, and this is human nature as well. I've learned this over the past couple of years especially, is people want extreme change without extreme change. And when I heard that, I don't even remember where I heard it, but it blew my mind because I was like, that's so true. Everyone, including myself, want extreme change without doing the extreme change. It's just human nature. So if you want that extreme change, you have to realize that your life literally has to change. Yeah. There's no way around it. If you want to lose 20 pounds, you need to do what someone who's going to lose 20 pounds has to do. There's no shortcuts. There's no doing this, that, or the other that you hear one-liners from a social media clip. You have to do the basics. There's very simple ways around to do these things, and you just have to do it. Yeah. And it's just human nature doesn't want to acknowledge that, and especially in today's society, people just don't want that to be the case.
Yeah.
But that's why I've coined it since college. My friends and family know that I say we love adversity a lot. Whenever I have a bad day, something happens, I just shake my hand and go, dude, we fucking love adversity, dude. Let's go. Fire me up. Get through this thing. It's on all my social medias, everything. That's all I do. I say it way too much. I think my name, my girlfriend's phone is literally adversity, because that's how much I was saying when we started dating. So, because I fucking love it so much, dude. It's just.
I just love the idea of her hanging out with her friends and you're calling her and they're like, what is that? Like, adversity.
Adversity.
Adversity's calling.
The biggest challenge in my life is calling me right now. That's what she said. That's what she said.
Oh, man. But I don't think my wife would be cool with me calling her adversity. It's like, no, adversity's calling. Do you answer it?
Yeah, you always got to pick up for adversity, dude. You pick up, you answer, and you overcome it.
So I'm going to go back to what you said about people asking, why are you doing 2 workouts a day or whatever. I think that there could be a logical reason why they're asking that, but then I think the other thing is for certain people is that when they hear that and maybe they're not meeting their fitness goals or they're not doing pushing themselves the way that they feel like they could be, it's a reflection on them. They're confronting their ideal and you are a mirror of that, and they go, I'm not doing that. And I think we keep coming back to the term, what we see on social media, but it's very true because it's so ingrained in our lives right now. We have access to way more people than we've ever had access to, and we're always comparing ourselves to what other people are doing. And in a way you see, shit, I'm not doing what they're doing, or I'm not achieving what they're achieving. But also, they're putting their best foot forward. That's one thing. How do you confronting what you are not doing, but then not doing it in a way that is detrimental to your progress, and also just continually comparing yourself to other people? Sure, that person who, I don't know, is not meeting their expectations for themselves right now and going, why are you, that's too much. You're doing it, twice a week or twice a day. Okay, well then what are you what would your ideal training situation be? Is it twice a day? Is it, however many days a week? I think what I'm saying is, I don't know what I'm saying. It's open for discussion, to be quite honest with you.
I think something that was interesting was, I think one of the things is like, one, oftentimes when you're doing something, like you said, people might be insecure. They might question you, and it's kind of frustrating because you're already picking something that's probably very taxing on your mind, taxing on your body, and it that much harder when then somebody goes, why are you doing that? Because then you're like in the middle of doing it, which is already difficult, and then someone's trying to check you and stuff. So I think when I was younger and I was insecure, I would try and fight them. Like, I'm doing this, you're not doing it, and this and that. And now I just go, I don't know. Let's find out. Like, you just prove by example, right? I think at the end of the day, if you want to instill change, you have to be that change, right? Because we all like to model our behavior off other people. And so if he's doing something that I think is extreme, but it works, I'm already going to listen, right? Like, we always on social media, you're always seeing what works. Like, that's the thing that gets you. So if you can be that, embody that thing that you want other people to be, I think that's just such a strong sort of way for change. Like, as a clinician, it's one thing if I tell my person, like my patient, my client, you need to exercise every day. And if they don't see me doing that, they're just going to take it for like, oh, that's just like cute talk, right? But if they're like, no, this guy exercises every day, he seems to live a pain-free, healthy life, I think my word will then be a little bit more powerful than just me saying it.
Yeah, your actions speak way louder than your words.
Correct.
Wholeheartedly agree, yeah. 100%. I feel like what you were trying to get to, which was a very interesting question, I was excited for you to finish it, and you never did, was almost like, how do you approach the acknowledgement that you're not where you want to be? I feel like that's where you're getting to, because the person that asked me like, why? It's a reflection on, like you're saying, it's a reflection on them and what they are not able to do and their own insecurities. And so I think what we were trying to ask is, how does that person who's asking why, in a healthy manner, be able to acknowledge what they haven't done and move forward on the correct path to achieve their goals, their desires, whatever it is? Because there is most definitely a way where it can be very destructive. We know that for sure.
Yeah.
Someone could get into a bad habit of not eating or much worse things that I don't even want to talk about. And for me personally, I find solace in the fact that you as an individual, as a person, not deciding to do something that you know benefits you is the same exact person that can make the decision to do what you know needs to be done. And I think just acknowledging your own self-agency is something that's really large that people don't do. Just acknowledging that they are in control of their situation. A lot of people just think, I can't. I got bills to pay. I got kids. I got whatever, which is all fair justifications for doing what you do. But at the same time, you do have your own agency. You can make it work. You have to be able to sacrifice what you can sacrifice, and at the end of the day, it all comes down to priorities. Maybe fitness just isn't your priority, which again is totally fine. If you have a family, if you have kids, and you got other stuff that is more important to you, then just acknowledging that and being okay with it is totally fine.
I think you put it so well, what I was trying to get at. And I think the other part of it, there were two parts to it. One was the comparing yourself to one another and looking at what someone else is doing as a reflection on what you are not doing. And in that circumstance, it could be negative. There's also the negative of comparing yourself just on social media and what other people are doing and letting that, because I've let that happen to me before. It's gotten the best of me, but you have to understand that your circumstances are so uniquely different than anybody else's circumstances. And it's not a fair comparison to go, man, Joe over there is just killing it, and I'm not doing what I should be doing and stuff, and poor me. That can just spiral into something negative. But I think asking things in a positive way, like you said, and then like what you said also, we all kind of hold each other accountable and giving praise for the things that we're doing instead of going, man, that's too much. Man, dude, that's awesome. Good for you. That's fantastic. I wish I could get there. And then that opens up for a broader discussion of, well, what can you do? Is that too much? Will that fit your lifestyle?
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
It's got to be context dependent, specific to the individual, and just what fits your lifestyle the best.
Yeah, and that also could go deeper in and of itself. In just like you're saying, it comes down to the mindset, the presuppositions that they had beforehand. If he would have came into it the mindset of, "Wow, that's awesome! Like, congratulations, good for you. I wish I could do that." Instead of like, "Why are you doing that?" You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's almost like how you go about day-to-day life. It's almost not even relevant to whatever specific goal it is. It's more so how you walk around every day in specific interactions. For example, if I run into a real estate tycoon, hey man, I would love to know what you're doing, how you find out, what properties to look at. I would love to know your systems, what that you have in place. I'm interested in that. I would love to know that, rather than like, dude, why do you keep buying so many houses? Like, you don't need any more houses. Like, I would much rather learn why or how he became successful than try to knock him for doing what he does. And it's how you walk around day to day is the mindset that I think most people are missing in that sense.
Yeah. Should we move on to another topic? We got deep there, guys.
Yeah.
I like it. There was something in related to activation that I wanted to talk to Cheyenne about.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. When we're talking about glute activation,
Yep.
right?
Cameron's favorite.
We're
topic.
not going to leave a podcast without talking about booty gains. Okay? Booty gains are the highest priority for most people. Okay? Let's be
They
50%
should
of the
be,
population.
actually.
let's be straight here.
They should be.
Let's be honest, it's probably more. Is it a valid means to activate glutes to put it around your ankles and do the lateral walks? Because people break that shit all day long.
100%.
Drives me nuts.
For first half of the question, I would love to add a second half from a PT perspective. Not only is it good activation for the bands, but also how important is activation actually? Because my understanding,
I'm gonna tell you, it's fucking important. I'm gonna tell you right now.
my understanding right now,
Anecdotally, very important.
yeah, I totally agree. Is I view it as important, but I'm not gonna die on that hill. Whereas like I haven't noticed significant changes in me activating certain things and how my squat pattern actually functions when I go into a squat.
I 100% know how it feels. It works, and I'm in a much healthier, safer spot because of it.
And here's what I will also say though as well. This could just be coming from a 25-year-old compared to a 30-plus. That could be that as well.
Dang. Wow.
Damn.
But also
Below the belt, dude.
But also someone that doesn't squat over fucking 4 plates like Cam does over here. So that also comes to a certain level of levels to this thing,
So my favorite thing, it depends on context. So let's talk about activation, why it's important, when to do it, and stuff like that, right? The whole point of activation is we're turning on certain muscles, right? If we're breaking down a movement like the squat, the idea is we do want to work our glutes, we want to work our hamstrings, we want to work our quads, our calves, our core, all these things. When do we need to do activation is when we're doing that pattern and we're not utilizing all the muscles we want to use, right? For whatever reason, we're not 100% sure. We think maybe because we sit all the time or because of our modern lifestyle, the glutes tend to get underactivated, right? There's like a term that they love using called glute amnesia, meaning people are really good about turning their quads and their hamstrings on, but for whatever reason, it's hard to get the glutes firing. The reason it's important to get them firing is because the glute max is a very strong muscle, but the glute med and min are very good stabilizers for the lower body. So you might not need to do activation because for whatever reason, you're already using your glutes, right? But let's say hypothetically you were having that problem, then activating them before you squat would do you tremendous benefit, right? So it's not that everybody needs to do it, but if you want to do a clean movement, you need to break down, do you have enough mobility for that movement? Are you using the right muscles? Are those muscles strong enough? And then are you just doing it with good form, right? And so if you aren't activating the muscles that you want to use, then you should definitely activate them before you do that big compound movement, right? With regards to the band around the ankles, the further you are from the axis of rotation, the more torque there is, the higher the demand. People love using the band around the ankles because it's such a it's so far from the hips, right? If we're trying to activate the glutes, the hip socket is the axis of rotation. If you go to the ankles, it's basically the furthest lever point. It's not that it's bad to do. The problem is that most people, when they're trying to activate their glutes, need to do something simpler. The reason they're having trouble activating their glutes is because they don't know how to use them, and they're already jumping to the hardest exercise. It actually kind of goes back to what we were talking about before, which is you always want to do something with adversity, but that's possible. The sweet zone is challenging but possible. If you do something too challenging for your current capacity, you're either going to reinforce bad habits, you're going to hurt yourself, you're not going to be motivated because you're not going to be doing it right. I like to do my glute activation above the knees because I just find that most of the time you can get the right muscles going, and if you need it to be harder, you can always make a tighter band, you can double up on the bands, you can do a harder movement instead of going to the ankles. For whatever reason, when we go above the ankles, I think a lot of people like to use some of those muscles like your quads, hamstrings, or even your IT band, your TFL, hitting your IT band to get your stabilization.
So many band walks are stupid.
That's what I heard.
That's what I heard.
No.
That's what I heard. That's what I heard.
So it depends on the person. It depends on how they're doing it, what they need. Again, context is everything. Activation, I think, is a really important thing that often gets underutilized. And I actually think as PTs, that's where we spend or should spend most of our time, right? Because mobility is very important, but it's not everything, because you might have the mobility to do your squat, but you might just be using your quads and hamstrings because that's what you're used to doing, right? And it just caused some dysfunction down the road.
So can I also ask then?
Yeah.
How do you, when you use the term activation, do you relate it to more like mind-muscle connection or something entirely different?
No, mind-muscle connection's good. It's so like the most objective way you do it is you do an EMG, right? A needle EMG. You stick a needle in the muscle. You have that person turn on that muscle. Either you say, hey, can you squeeze your glute? Or you give them an external cue. Can you squat? Can you lift your leg? And then you see how much that muscle is firing, right? That's like a very scientific way to do it. What we're looking for, let's say in the clinic, because I don't necessarily want to stick a needle in everybody just to see if their glutes firing, because it also isn't that significant, is do you feel it, right? Because usually if you feel it, that means we're kind of on the right track, right? So the mind-muscle connection is probably the best way, that the most practical way that we'll sort of measure it or think about it.
So I'm wondering if maybe potentially the warm-up styles that like I do anecdotally is just very much focusing on the mind-muscle connection. I started very lightweight. And I'm wondering if in a sense almost that is just the activation I do and why I don't really have many issues with it. Because I very keenly focus on the form of whatever lower half movement I'm doing, and specifically usually squeezing the glutes. Like I've never had a glute activation issue like ever in my life. I don't know if it's related to the mind-muscle connection or just maybe how I warm up, whatever it is, but I've never done that type of like activation. Activision's a gaming company. What am I talking about? Activation like segment of my warm-ups. I've never had that for me or any of my clients.
Don't you have a shoulder problem?
Yeah,
Damn.
but that's
putting him on blast.
that's more related to how I sleep.
Totally. Oh, yeah.
So yeah, like there's multiple ways to do this, for instance, and maybe just doing lower weight for you, you can focus, get your glutes firing, get everything dialed in. But maybe for somebody else, or maybe honestly, there might even be a day where you didn't sleep that well, and for whatever reason, you're just not getting it with that. There's other ways to do it, right? So isometrics, holding something just against resistance and just holding for a long time is sort of like the bread and butter of activation, right? Because it's very simple to do. We find the optimal position that muscle likes to be turned on. We hold it against resistance, and that's sort of like the easiest way to get activation. It's not the only way, right? So for you, you're like, hey, if I just do 20% of my 1 rep max, I can sit there, I can think about it, and I can get everything dialed in. That's great. You know what I mean? We don't necessarily need to chase activation all the time, but it's definitely there for running into dysfunction.
So basically, I've been unknowingly doing activation this entire time, is what I'm hearing.
Potentially.
Okay.
You're just a genius.
You could be doing
intuitively.
it wrong.
I just intuitively
such
know
a genius, bro.
what to do, when to do it, and how to do it.
Dang, man.
I get that a lot.
Your girlfriend must be so lucky.
Yeah, I didn't want to say it.
We were all thinking of it, man.
Sorry.
I teed it up. That's my bad.
But it's one of those things, too, where it may not be necessary for everybody, but virtually everybody can benefit from it, right? Just like doing core.
Yeah, so like glute activation is one of those things that there's a ton of research on, and glute strength that tends to yield some really good results for anything kind of in the lower body. For whatever reason that happens, our modern lifestyle, like I said, we tend to underutilize the glutes, and then it causes us to compensate down the chain in so many ways. So it is a very common thing. As to whether I'd say everybody could use it, probably, but I'm not there to say 100%.
You could have just said yes. I said almost everybody.
No. Oh, almost everybody.
I said almost everybody.
Everybody.
Just
Cam really
about
wants to
everybody.
die in this hill. He really wants people to have to activate all the time. He wants them to wake up, go in the living room, and start doing their band work.
Activate!
Activate! Fire me up for my drive to work.
So mini bands are shit on the ankles and walking and stuff. We
Mini
got that
bands are
conclusion,
shit.
and
I-
almost everybody
I-
can benefit
I-
from doing activation and core. So
It's not
Core?
what I said.
there's that.
I don't train core. I train abs. There's a difference.
Sick. Nice, man.
That's coming from a bodybuilder right there.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
100%.
Oh, man.
Sorry.
Oh man, dude, let's go into some of the legit or shit things, because I tend to have a little bit more of a cynical take on a lot of the things going on in the fitness industry right now, and Daniel has a glass half full type of look at it, and I appreciate it greatly.
Yeah.
Let's just dive into partial range of motion. Is it beneficial? Should we do full range?
I say underrated. I'm also coming from a bodybuilder standpoint as well.
And I I've come from multiple different backgrounds and stuff, and more so into like the powerlifting thing right now. So full range of motion, and even like the strength training atmosphere, full range of motion has been the hill that we die on. But I think now, especially after our conversation yesterday, it's very context dependent. And like you said, when we were doing the Smith machine, which people would probably die if they saw me doing a Smith machine, we're doing overhead
we can
press.
delete that too. You don't have to tell everyone.
Yeah,
what to do
yeah.
It's
Smith
okay.
machine.
I have no problem telling people
Yeah.
I did the Smith machine, and my shoulders are sore.
I think I have some nerve pain now for some reason.
Zero nerve pain, sore shoulders for sure. Say sore shoulders 3 times fast. Anyway, we did partial range of motion. You talked about how it's helpful because we're not trying to target the triceps by going full range of motion. We are trying to isolate and get the deltoids working. So it is definitely something that I've changed my stance on.
Yeah. There's always, I mean, like we discussed it earlier, right? Like nuance and context in fitness, and to be honest, in almost everything is just life. Like that's just, I think people sleep on that so much. Almost anything I feel like could be argued for in a certain circumstance.
My thought is this. I would much rather use an exercise and use that tool for the exercise, kettlebell swing, for example. I think we can generally agree that when we're in the gym, we're trying to utilize our time most efficiently to produce a certain type of stimulus that is going to either elicit muscle gain or strength gain. We could generally say that's what we're aiming for, or it could be cardiovascular. I am going to try to get something that's going to give me the most bang for my buck.
In my mind, my take is this, is the most important part of any program or even like a person's fitness journey is adherence to whatever they're doing. So at the end of the day, if I hate just an exercise or a workout just on principle because I think it's a waste of time or useless, if someone loves it and it fires them up to get in the gym and do kettlebell around the worlds, who am I to say? Who am I to say? No, like you can't do that because the kettlebell swing is so much more efficient. It's going to give you so much more power, strength, hypertrophy, good cardiovascular work. Like who am I to say that if that's what got you in there that you can't do that? Like I just and that's kind of like the hill that I will die on is if they freaking love it, do what you want to do. Like whatever gets you in there, whatever like is going to make you do what you need to do.
Yeah, assuming it's not detrimental to them, right? I'm not saying it is or isn't. I'm just saying I agree with you. If it's going to get them in there and it's going to get them motivated, we should let them do it. But then, you know, there comes to a point where there might be things that gets them motivated for the short term, but we know has long-term consequences, and then we have to ask ourselves, you know, are we ready for that? I'm not saying yes or no. It just has more.
Yeah,
layers
and that's a
to
good
it.
that's a good
Yeah.
point as well. And I think that's a conversation like to be had with on a case-by-case basis as professionals. Like if you know,
Totally.
hey, maybe you shouldn't be squatting 6 plates yet.
Correct.
But
Like most people could even get 6 plates.
I know, but I'm saying if someone goes like, "Hey, I want to start my fitness journey, and I'm excited to squat 6 plates in the first day. Maybe we should step in and be like, hey, maybe you shouldn't."
So I want to
But-
go back to the partial range of motion thing, because I think one thing we've established on this is that context matters, goals matters, and there's almost a case for everything. However, and I agree, partial range of motion has its case. You're post-surgical, we actually might have to limit your range of motion to protect whatever the surgery was. You might be trying to focus more on one specific muscle or range of motion for the time being. But I almost think that partial range of motion should almost always be so that you can get to full range of motion. Now, everyone has their own goals and context, but when it comes to function and even strength and mobility and overall health, actually Dr. Andy Galpin has said something. It's like all joints through all available range of motions. And I tend to lean towards that way. I'm not saying never use partial range of motion, but I think the issue is you get what you practice. And if you're never in those end ranges of motion, if you're never learning how to go through the full range of motion and you're just sticking to partial range of motion, it can be dangerous, right? So I think partial range of motion is fine, but ultimately I'm using it as a means to an end, just not the end itself.
Yeah. Well, I think that's one of the benefits of going through training phases is that you can go into a hypertrophy training phase or a training block that is several weeks long, and then utilizing partial range of motion. Then in the next training phase, you can go into a full range of motion training phase, and you can go into a strength training phase. Then you can go into a functional training phase, whatever that means at this point, just kind of like, anybody does whatever. But having training phases and going through those, I think it keeps you it adds some novelty. It keeps you in the program, allows you to have better adherence, and you get to get the benefit of different types of training stimuli.
And I totally wholeheartedly agree with everything you said about the range of motion, especially for functionality and strength and just practicing even specific movements. Full range of motion is very important, and that is 100% correct. Where I stem from is more the hypertrophy side of things. But even then, I still do full range of motion typically for like the first half of my set. The last half where I start to get really fatigued and I could feel whatever complementary muscle is starting to fade out, and I know it's not the one I'm trying to target. For example, we were doing chest press the other day, and I felt like my triceps were starting to give out like towards the middle way. Okay, I don't care. That's not what I'm training right now. I want to do chest. So I'll focus on the bottom half, get a good stretch, aid in mechanical tension and metabolic stress, and the good stretch, and push till failure. And that's with partial range of motion, because obviously I won't be able to get that full range of motion for the last probably 5 reps I did. Probably 5 or 6 reps of partials. So in terms of hypertrophy, that's where partial reps really comes into play for me. If I didn't care about putting on muscle, I would only do full range of motion. Like full stop. I'm not gonna lie to you. If hypertrophy wasn't my goal, I probably wouldn't even be doing it. Which is kind of a shame, because it's probably still beneficial to do on like certain days, whatever. But no way I'm going to do like a barbell back squat.
Well,
partials at the end. Finish off with partials and throw it back.
Yeah.
Good luck. Be one of those guys in Gold's Gym just throwing it fucking back.
Just dropping it.
Yeah, that's not me. But yeah, like I said, it's specifically a hypertrophy modality for me personally.
I think you could go and do your partials, then in your next training phase, go and do full range of motion, and then get the benefit of having more functionality in your training. Because you see a lot of bodybuilders, and it looks like it's hard for them to wipe their own asses. Is that really the lifestyle that you want to have? But you're absolutely yoked.
I think you would honestly be surprised at who was it? I can't remember who in the 70s did that study on bodybuilders' flexibility, because he had that full mindset of like, this isn't a safe way to train. And he went and actually went to a bodybuilding show and saw all these massive dudes doing like the splits and doing some crazy mobility stuff. And he's like,
how many?
Damn, I don't.
How many?
I don't remember.
One?
I can find you the actual story and study that the guy did, and I'll get you the guy's actual name too. But I remember watching that the video. It was like a YouTube doc that I was watching, and he was saying like, I was blown away by these guys like mobility that they had with the muscle volume that they had. He goes, I didn't think it was possible. I thought muscle was going to be limiting. But you're right. And a lot of these guys put on look 300 pounds, 5'10", 300 pounds, and just straight muscle. Like you're saying, can't wipe their own ass. But I don't think that reflects on the type of training they do, more so the type of training that they don't do. And I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. They made their bed, they got to lay in it. I'm not saying that people should neglect mobility and flexibility, but partials are great. You can't say that just because.
I agree. I think partials are great. I'm
Yeah.
not gonna lie. I think partials
So-
are great. I've seen the light, and it is
Uh-huh.
partials
Yeah.
part of the time.
Part of the time. But then it comes down to that you got to make sure that you're not missing out on the other aspects of your training as well.
Yeah, I
It's
think
having a nice balance.
as long as you're not only doing partials and you're still expressing those muscles and joints through the full range of motion
Yeah.
and making sure you can, doing some
Yeah.
partials is great. I agree.
100%.
But I think the issue is that oftentimes the discipline of making sure you're getting through that full range of motion is very difficult. And then let's say you get yourself so sore because you're trying to hypertrophy that you get yourself so sore, then it gets that much harder to make sure you're expressing through yourself through the full range of motion during the next session. So it's not as a bad thing, it's just a lot of work, right? So I think for the majority of people to just say like, hey, make sure you just do your sets and your reps through your full range of motion is a really great thing, because then you sort of build that habit, you build that discipline, you build that focus. As long as if you're hitting those partials, it's great, and just as long as you're still making sure that you are getting the full range of motion and stuff. Because I actually think it will help with your hypertrophy too, because having some tissue elasticity, having the fascia to be able to expand and contract, I don't have any evidence to say it, but just my expert opinion would say that I think it will help with hypertrophy too.
Yeah. And I think as far as the muscle soreness affecting your next workout, that's kind of where it comes into program design.
Yeah.
Obviously, as someone that doesn't know what they're doing, goes in and just trains like that crazy all the time, like we'll have those issues and probably will end up limiting the range of motion on a lot of things if that's all they do. But that's where having someone or just knowing yourself how to create a proper program so that soreness doesn't impact your next workout is very crucial.
No, definitely.
What's next? Legit or shit? So what are we saying? I'm saying legit.
Partials are legit.
Partials are legit.
I think partials are
I
legit.
made a good case there.
You did. Valid points, Daniel.
Saying
Valid points.
legit with caution.
Legit with caution.
Legit.
Legit with an asterisk on top.
Legit.
No, I mean it's legit, but I would skew if you had to pick one or the other. I'm skewing away from it, but if you can do both, then it's legit.
Yeah.
I think people can do both.
I think people could do both. And I don't even think people need to do it at all. to be
Oh,
honest.
dude, I got a good one. Sorry to interrupt
you're
your
good.
thought. I
good.
have to get this out there. Bosu balls. Legit or shit, bro? Bosu balls. I'm throwing them in the shit category. I know you're going to say, well, it's context
Yeah, I
dependent
know.
and blah, 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 blah. But I got to say, what?
I will say that most people
What
are using
fucking
them wrong.
context are it going to be?
Most people are using them wrong. Most people are doing it for the wrong reason. Actually,
It scares the crap out of me when I see like old people. Oh, dude. Okay, I will go into this. So I want to talk
No,
about
no, you're-
stability in a brief moment, but you'll see trainers taking their clients who are like, I really want to work on my stability, my balance, and they put them on a freaking Bosu ball, and I'm like, getting them stronger will be infinitely better than putting them on a Bosu ball right now. I am way more concerned about that person breaking a hip than if they were to start
100%.
doing some goblet squats or something.
yeah.
That is also a pet peeve of mine. People who get geriatric patients and put them on stability balls or start doing
For
some,
any
like,
type of stability implement.
Yeah, yeah, and their primary focus, like they put them on like a little
Eric's pad.
a little wobbly board.
Yeah.
Yeah. So here's actually there is something that needs to be addressed with this, because there's something that people do very wrong. And so it's with ankle sprains to balance, right? You have three systems for balance. You have your visual system, you have your joint proprioception, and you have your inner ear, right?
Vestibular system.
Vestibular system. Right. Nice. Well done, Cam.
Thank you.
I'm proud of you. You've been studying.
You know.
No, so the thing is this. People always assume harder is better, right? Let's get an unstable surface. It's going to challenge you. Your balance is going to be better. That's not necessarily true. It depends what system you're trying to bias, right? If you're trying to balance the if you're trying to bias the visual system, the idea is we're going to quiet down the other two. So we're going to take your vestibular system out, and we're going to take your ankle or your proprioception out, right? A lot of times what people do is wrong. Let's say after an ankle sprain, people want to work on their proprioceptive balance. Proprioception is your joint knowing where it is in space. The ligaments and mechanoreceptors in your joints know that, and so when you sprain a ligament, that tends to go down. When people put them on the AirX pad, what's happening is you're actually taking the proprioception away, or a Bosu ball, because instead of getting quick feedback from the floor, your feedback is getting diminished, right? So as your ankle rolls, the floor should kind of push against it. Your ankle goes, oh, I need to fix it. But when you have the Bosu ball or AirX pad, you're giving so much more room for it, right?
Interesting.
So most people are using it wrong. They're just using it because they think it's harder. Let's challenge this person. Let's put them on a Bosu ball. Let's put them on that. The time you do put somebody on the Bosu ball, or the time you do use the AirX pad, is if you're actually trying to challenge their vestibular system. But that's a very few amount of people. And what you'd have them do is close their eyes, put them on an AirX pad or Bosu ball, and you have to spot them. Because if you're trying to challenge their vestibular system, they're probably somebody who's a fall risk, right? So I rarely think that it's done appropriately. So I agree with you that the Bosu ball most of the time is done shit, right? Because people are just doing it as in, let's make it harder. But it's you're doing for the wrong reason.
Yeah, but in the same case that you're talking about, where you're trying to challenge someone that has a fall risk, typically is that associated with someone who is, I assume, a geriatric patient? Wouldn't just getting them stronger?
Not necessarily, because you have to address the root cause of their fall. They could be a fall risk because they have poor eyes. They could be a fall risk because they have just weak dorsiflexion. That's it. They could be super strong everywhere else, but their dorsiflexors are weak because of that. They're not getting foot clearance. They trip on wires. They trip on cracks and stuff like that. My job is always breaking down the root cause of their impairment, right? Instead of just saying you're a fall risk, it has to be because of this. We have to look, hey, is it because you're weak? Is it because you're weak everywhere, or you're just weak one place? Is it because you have bad vision? Is it because you have orthostatic hypotension, and when you stand up too quickly, you get lightheaded, and then you're trying to walk to the bathroom and you fall? You have to break it down. So I think strength training is really underutilized in geriatric patients, and it's something that is very beneficial. But we still need to break down and say, why is this person a fall risk? Why do they need balance and stuff like that?
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So shit is what I'm hearing.
I think most people use it wrong, yes. But I think there's I've used Bosu balls for people that have shoulder instability, and I've had them do like certain workouts on it just to make the workout fun and challenging. I'm not saying that's the cure for shoulder instability. Yeah. You can get creative with it. It's like a tool, but I think most people use them wrong.
So for most people, shit. For most people, shit. I think that's where we can... Niche situations. I think if we're trying to find legit or shit, realistically, if it's going to be not beneficial for majority of people, we should just call it what it is and probably just shit for most people. I'd rather speak to the masses than to the minorities.
I think it then goes to our beginning point that we said that when social media is all about absolute, and then that's not how it is. There's
You're right, but if we're clarifying that we're speaking to the masses here, to most people, for most people, like you said, for most people, it's probably, you probably don't need it. You could probably do something better.
See, we said nuance isn't sexy, and then you went to the sexy one when here's the binary. It is shit.
It's shit.
And that is sexy.
Sorry. I think I have a specific hatred for Bosu balls because I used to be big into them. Is why I have a hatred for them.
Dude, we've all been there.
Yeah, I was super into Bosu balls. I was like doing squats on Bosu balls. I was getting on them with weight, doing squats on a Bosu ball. Which was fucking insane, to be honest. That I was ever able to do that. I couldn't only imagine being able to do that now. But like I used to be so big into them, and I'm just like, it's so dumb. For what?
Yeah.
Like, the novelty of it. It looks weird and cool, I guess. I don't know.
It does. God, it's so ridiculous. It's just squat on the floor. Just get your feet on the ground and squat. Deadlift. You can do a leg press. Like goodness gracious. I don't know why we need to do it. Guys, I think we're just about up on time. Want to say thank you. This is awesome. Super fun. For those who are wondering, what is that background noise that's been going on and off throughout this entire podcast? We are filming us in my gym, and next to us is a strip dancing lesson course thing next door.
I will be there in approximately 10 minutes.
Yeah, in about 5 minutes, we're all heading over there.
We're taking the next class.
Yeah, if you hear that, thank you for bearing with us. That is what that sound is. Guys, any closing thoughts?
No, I mean, thank you for having us on. I wish we had another 2 hours to keep going. I'm sure there's a whole bunch more stuff we can keep talking about, but
Yeah, we're gonna definitely do this again. We're gonna dive into more topics, and we're gonna pull up some more articles, more ridiculous fitness things, because there is just an infinite amount of information out there that we can sift through,
Yeah.
have a good conversation
It's
with.
the internet, baby.
I'm down.
Yep.
Let's do it.
All right,
All right, guys.
fantastic. All right, guys, stay tuned for next time, and thanks everyone. Take care.